am the white moonlight that Julian abandoned his family to marry. But when I was 6 months pregnant, he cheated on me. In the private room, he was kissing a young and beautiful girl in the midst of everyone's cheers. Some people envied him for marrying the campus belle, soon to have a wife, kids, and a warm bed. He lit a cigarette, the smoke rings puffing out with a mocking voice. Clara is good, gentle, beautiful, but when I think about how much hardship I endured leaving my family to start my own business to marry her, I feel like an idiot. Looking at her now, she's just so timid, dull, extremely boring. After saying that, he kissed the girl beside him and teasingly touched her face. You're much better, not asking me for a title, just playing around however you want. But he forgot that Clara, though timid and dull, was vengeful and held grudges. I was carrying both the hangover remedy I bought at the drugstore on the way, and a dripping umbrella. My phone still had a message from Julian an hour ago. Wife, I'm drunk. Can you come pick me up and take me home? Still the familiar aggrieved and coquettish tone. The dim yellow light cast an ambiguous atmosphere in the corridor. This was a high-end private club. Julian only regained the right to enter after becoming independent from the Jiang family, and successfully starting his own business. Privacy was a given. Perhaps the light wasn't good. I stumbled suddenly when stepping over the carpet divider. I staggered forward several steps before stopping. I held my bulging belly, my heart pounding violently. Then, the ring on my left ring finger loosened, and it felt like my heart was pricked with a needle. My wedding ring fell off due to the violent movement just now. For 3 years of marriage, I had never taken off that ring that Julian personally designed and polished. Countless times in bed, he hugged my limp body and kissed my fingers one by one. So beautiful, everything about Clara is beautiful, only Clara deserves to wear the ring I made. Now it fell off so easily, without any foreshadowing, like a withered leaf falling from a tree in autumn. Falling very naturally when the time came. I squatted down and frantically searched. There was only black in the dim light, and there was nothing but a long furry carpet as far as I could see. The door of the private room was ajar, and the voices of young men and women came from inside. They were playing truth or dare. It seemed someone lost, and was being egged on to drink. Julian, I really can't drink anymore, can you help me? If you help me this time, tonight, I'll put in a good effort. The girl's voice was like a honey candy melting in your mouth, sweet and delicious, with a hint of coquetry in her tone. Little liar, you said you'd put in a good effort yesterday too. Who was it who started crying halfway through? The lazy male voice rose with pleasure, and it was easy to hear the pampering mixed in. Just like when he used to coax me. I am an extremely insecure person. Even if a very quiet environment suddenly makes a little noise, my heart will beat violently. Clara, why are you so timid? Even slamming the door a little can startle you. Clara, don't be afraid. I just put down a glass too hard. He lovingly wrapped me in a blanket, circled me in his arms, and smiled as he stroked my tense back. Clara is really like a little rabbit. I'll do everything gently in the future, okay? I promise not to scare our Clara at all. Strangely, I actually relaxed a little under that comfort. I gave my heart away little by little, incorporating him into my safe space. For the next few years, whenever I showed frightened or even terrified expressions, he would wrap me in a blanket and hug me, blanket and all, into his arms to help me gradually build up a sense of security. Until this moment, the safe space collapsed, and my heart also felt empty. Tears fell unexpectedly. The heartache surged like a tide a month ago, mercilessly engulfing me. Yes, a month. I knew Julian was cheating a month ago. That day it was raining too. Beijing's autumn weather changes every day. I made an appointment for a prenatal checkup in advance, wearing a thick trench coat, and waiting for Julian to come back and pick me up. The man who was supposed to be back at 2 in the afternoon was still nowhere to be seen at 3. Seeing that the appointed time was getting closer and closer, I called him. The man on the other end sounded a little hoarse, but still gentle and patient. He said, "Sorry wife, I've been coordinating with a foreign company recently. I have an urgent meeting. Can the assistant send you today?" I don't like strangers getting close, even if it's his assistant who I've met many times. But he has been very busy lately, so busy that he only comes back after I fall asleep, and he has already left when I wake up. Only the remaining warmth on the side tells me that he came back last night. The last time I saw him was the day before yesterday. The man was full of exhaustion, hugging me aggrievedly, his fluffy head rubbing against my neck, like a wolfhound begging for its owner's love, saying that the company was about to go public, and he hadn't had time to be with me or the child recently. He coaxed me with kisses to make up for the sadness of not having me by his side during this time. Thinking of this, my heart softened, and I gently reminded him, "Okay, you have to remember to rest too, your health is the most important thing." He laughed on the other end, making a loud bub-kissing sound through the phone. "Okay, I'll listen to my wife. At the charity gala last night, I bid on angel wings for you. I'll bring it back to you when I get back tonight." My face blushed with happiness. Angel wings is my favorite master's work. It is the only work in the Freedom series that has been auctioned for sale. I had been staring at the necklace in the magazine for a long time. He noticed it and jokingly hugged me and sat me on his lap, telling me to coax him, and he would get it back for me. For it, I really coaxed him for a long time. Finally, my tongue was numb, my lips were swollen, my legs were weak, and I couldn't even stand. He finally hoarsely bent down and picked me up, placing me on his lap. "Silly Clara, no one deserves this necklace except you." But that necklace ultimately failed to hang around my neck. When I was happily looking at the fetus that had grown hands and feet with the examination results, the man who said he was busy and wanted me to comfort him was hugging a crying girl and sitting in the obstetrics and gynecology clinic next door. "Ruptured corpus luteum due to excessive intercourse. There's nothing wrong, just pay attention to the frequency of intercourse, pay attention to hygiene, and don't have intercourse recently." The girl sobbed incessantly in pain, clinging to Julian and acting spoiled. Julian held her hand and kissed her forehead gently, coaxing her in a low voice. His temperament isn't actually good. Born into a wealthy family, he has been held high in the clouds since he can remember, and he was even more unruly and rebellious when he was young. He would lose his temper at the slightest displeasure, and he was vindictive towards those who offended him. His pair of peach blossom eyes were full of arrogance and malice, not to mention coaxing people. He couldn't even speak properly. Only when facing me would those eyes contain tenderness. Now he has also learned to coax little girls with such tenderness. I stood at the door, not even noticing that the examination sheet in my hand had been crumpled into a ball. Julian is right, I am timid and dull. Even when I see my husband cheating, I subconsciously hide, not wanting to confront them directly. What am I thinking about? Oh, I'm thinking Julian knows I have a prenatal checkup today, right? Julian knows I've always booked this private hospital, right? Then is he not afraid of being seen by me bringing her to this hospital? Or is he doing it on purpose? Deliberately letting me see that he has someone else, not wanting to waste words with me, wanting me to voluntarily give way? My gaze wandered back and forth over the two people who were pressed tightly together. Finally, it landed on the girl's neck. That's the necklace I've looked at countless times in magazines. So he gave it to her too. I don't remember how I got home that day. I only knew that I was soaked in the rain, and the phone in my pocket rang and then stopped. It wasn't until I got home that I answered. Julian's voice sounded very anxious. "Wife, where did you go? Assistant Cole said you left and they couldn't find you. Where are you? Give me an address. I'll come pick you up." I numbly and calmly told him, "I'm home." He kept rambling on the other end, but my ears were ringing, and I couldn't hear him clearly. After he hung up, I finally went into the room to change. Only then did I belatedly feel how cold, so cold I was, even with the air conditioning turned up to 30 degrees. Even when I curled up on the sofa and wrapped myself in a blanket, I could still hear my teeth chattering. As time passed, minute by minute, and night fell, the house was silent, but the door home never opened. I suddenly went crazy, kicking over the coffee table, scattering broken glass vases and roses covered in water all over the floor. Cowardly and dull, I dared to lose my temper only after making sure the person who did wrong wouldn't be back, so I could vent recklessly. I smashed everything in the living room that could be smashed, until I collapsed from exhaustion and fell to the floor. Only then did I realize I wasn't cold. My heart was weeping, screaming with heart-wrenching pain. My mind was reeling, and I couldn't understand what I had done wrong. Why the person who loved me so much would cheat on me during my pregnancy, dealing me a fatal blow. For the next month, I was trapped in endless self-doubt. I started to worry about my sagging belly, and the haggard look on my face from the pregnancy. I even thought I was the worst, most terrible person in the world. Despite all this, I subconsciously covered everything up, trying to pretend that nothing had happened. I didn't dare bring it out into the open. I lost my family at 17, and for the next 8 years, Julian replaced them. He was all I had in my life. I was afraid that even he would disappear from my life. But no matter how much I tried to avoid it, I would subconsciously search him for clues, to know exactly when he had gotten out of that woman's bed again. The sweet, cloying perfume scent on him when he hugged me, the occasional lipstick stain on the white shirt in the laundry basket, the brown curls on the passenger seat that weren't mine. Countless self-doubts and these details that I had previously ignored were like mountains, slowly eroding my sanity and breaking me down. My face remained impassive, but inside, a tsunami raged, wave after wave violently crashing against my heart. Until my heart, like a wall that had stood for years, cracked piece by piece, crumbled away piece by piece, revealing the mottled, foul-smelling traces behind it. Standing outside the private room at this moment, I felt the haze that had clouded my mind for a month gradually begin to clear. The noisy revelry inside continued, but I no longer had any interest in going in. Julian, you're a winner in life. Beautiful wife and child, gorgeous mistress. I heard your wife was a campus belle back in the day, a famous unattainable flower in school. She went to the same school as your mistress. A delicate, coquettish voice chimed in. Really, Julian, is your wife my senior? Didn't you say she was so pitiful? Her parents died early, her mom was pregnant when she died, and her stepfather liked to beat her. I thought she was a haggard old woman. That voice, with a hint of anger mixed in with the coquetry, said, if you had told me your wife was so pretty, I wouldn't have been so embarrassed when I asked you in bed last night who was prettier, me or your wife. No, you shouldn't look for pretty when searching for a mistress. What does she want from you? Exactly. Besides, who says someone with a bad family background can't be good-looking? Your family isn't all that great either. Just looking at Julian, you can tell his wife is definitely a beauty. Even a fool could figure that out. A few jeering remarks made the young girl burst into tears, and Julian smiled and smoothed things over. Why are you teasing her? She's still young, innocent, and cute. Don't bully her. As for Clara, Julian's voice, which had been smiling, now held an inexplicable meaning. I only saw his Adam's apple bob as he said, she's good, gentle, beautiful. But when I think about all the hardships I went through to break away from my family and start my own business to marry her, I feel like an idiot. Looking at her now, she's just okay. What unattainable flower. She's just timid, doesn't like to socialize, and is dull and boring. Why was I so infatuated with her back then? I only felt a chill run through me. That nightmarish past of mine had already been told to his mistress, and even more people, by Julian. He dissected me, that person, and my family, for their entertainment, laying bare my flesh and pain for them to see, turning my pain into a pastime for their boredom. And I had spent the past month wondering why Julian would cheat. And now the answer was coming from Julian's own mouth. Making myself torture for the past month seems so ridiculous. Julian's father also cheated on his mother during her pregnancy. By the time his mother found out, his illegitimate son was almost 10 years old, about the same age as Julian. From then on, Julian's mother's mental state was not very good. After struggling in pain for a few years, she jumped from the top of a building. And not long after his mother died, his father brought his mistress and illegitimate son home. From then on, Julian moved out and never went back. Julian was 17 at the time and lived next door to me. He became very violent because of this change, and fighting and making trouble were common occurrences. I only knew that the boy who moved in next door was about the same age as me and, like me, was pitiful and no one cared about him. So I often secretly left medicine for bruises and sprains at his door. Later, after I got together with him, I learned about his family situation and the difference in wealth between us. His father never gave up on him, perhaps because of the little bit of guilt he felt towards Julian's mother. All the resources in their family were unconditionally directed towards him. I once tried to distance myself from him for this reason. Julian found me, trembling, hugged me tightly and choked out, "Clara, I can live without anything, except you. Don't leave me, I'll die. You're the only person I care about in this world." I was ultimately moved with pity. I went home with him and met the man who had cheated and driven his wife to death. He looked down on us condescendingly. Julian, if you want to marry this woman, I will take back all the privileges you have received from the Jiang family. I will always remember the pity in his father's eyes when he looked at me, and the mockery he directed at Julian. He said, "Are you sure that when you lose the aura and everything that comes with being the eldest son of the Jiang family, and you enter a life of everyday trivialities, struggling to earn a little money each month that might not even be enough to buy a button on the clothes you wear now, while your younger brother inherits the family business, with people fawning all over him, are you sure that you won't hate her then, won't resent her?" Julian stubbornly pulled me out of the villa that day, leaving only the words, "Then take it back." In fact, everything that is happening now was foreshadowed. For example, I had seen Julian staring at his well-dressed illegitimate younger brother's photo on the entertainment news section of his phone, lost in thought. I had also seen him push away my hand as I tried to wipe his face during his most difficult time in starting his business, his eyes filled with resentment as he drunkenly murmured, "Why does he get to have everything? He's just an illegitimate child. His mother is a home-wrecking bitch. They've all forgotten the days when they used to suck up to me." These fragments pieced together a complete line that told me the truth. Julian hates me. How ridiculous. Why does Julian hate me? He made his own choices. Why is he blaming me for his dissatisfaction? Coward. Julian, your wife is heavily pregnant. Aren't you afraid she'll find out if you do this? After this sentence, there was a brief silence inside. Then came the sound of glass shattering unexpectedly and Julian's cold warning. "So everyone, shut your fucking mouths. She's about to give birth. Nothing can go wrong at this critical time." However, looking through the crack in the door, Julian casually threw the broken cup into the corner, tilting his head back, the superior profile of his face making it impossible to see his expression, as if the warning he had just given was just an illusion. I only saw his Adam's apple bob as he said, "She's 6 months pregnant now, and her belly is so big. Besides, she only has me. What can she do even if she finds out?" I looked at the figure I had once loved so much, and my body gradually began to tremble, until I was so weak that I could only lean against the wall to stand up straight. Many images flashed intermittently in my mind. Finally, it settled on a stormy, bloody day. A drunken, violent man. A little girl crying nonstop. And a pregnant woman holding the little girl's belly. "Clara! Clara, run!" The woman's eyes were bloodshot, as if blood would drip from them in the next second. Her hair was disheveled, and her voice was hoarse, as if she had phlegm stuck in her throat. Behind her was a man punching and kicking her. The man's voice seemed to pierce through time from hell and land in my ears. He said, "You're fucking pregnant, and I've gotten your belly this big. What can you do? What else can you do? Want to run? You can't run away for the rest of your fucking life." That was my past. The past I had been avoiding all my life. But at this moment, it was as if 1,000 sharp blades were nailing me to the spot, watching the past reappear, but unable to escape. No, I don't want this. After a long time, the revelry inside started up again, as Julian hugged the girl's slender waist and kissed her amidst the cheers of the crowd. I barely regained my strength. I suddenly laughed. I thought redemption was just another abyss. I turned around and walked step by step out of the dim corridor I had come from. My footsteps went from heavy to light. Finally, I ran all the way, clutching my stomach, until I stepped back into the light. Julian was right, I'm timid and dull, but I also hold grudges the most. When I offered him softness and he met me with a blade, he should have known that I would never forgive him. It was Julian. "Wife, tomorrow is our 3rd wedding anniversary. There's a surprise. Love, your husband." I deleted the text message expressionlessly and took a taxi away without hesitation. I slept the best sleep I'd had in a month. When Julian came back, I was on the balcony pruning the flower branches. The nanny, Mrs. Davis, had just returned from her vacation in the countryside, and was helping me wipe the water stains from the flower pots while telling me funny stories about her trip. I chuckled and Mrs. Davis followed with a comforting smile. "Madam hasn't laughed like this in a long time. Oh, Mr. is back. Mr. will come back to be with Madam even if he's busy on your wedding anniversary." My peripheral vision caught the man in the garden below holding flowers. He was frowning and carefully checking his clothes in the car's rearview mirror, the roses in his arms glistening with dew. You've been married for so long and Mr. is still so dedicated to letting Madam see the best of him. Look, he's even spraying perfume down there. Mr. really loves Madam. Hearing this, I scoffed. It was just the last check a man who's had his fill would do, afraid of his wife seeing through him. What are you talking about? You seem so happy. Julian came up quickly. The man who'd spent a chaotic night had taken great care of himself and looked radiant. He was wearing the black fashionable suit I had bought him, which made his shoulders broad, waist narrow, legs long, and his bulging muscles in his arms were strong and powerful. Nothing, just saying how good Mr. and Madam's relationship is. Mr. you keep Madam company first, I'll go prepare lunch. Mrs. Davis smiled and left, leaving us with the space. Julian raised an eyebrow, his eyes smiling as he put down the flowers and came over to hug me. Mrs. Davis is so good, constantly witnessing my love for my wife. I raised my hand to keep him away. His strong men's cologne couldn't cover the pervasive and uncomfortable scent of a girl's sweetness. Did you stay at the company again last night? I turned and looked into his eyes. Yes, I didn't finish until 2 in the morning last night, so I slept at the company. Wife, I miss you so much. I can't sleep well without holding you. He held my hand and rubbed his head against it, his tone pitiful and without any guilt. I laughed. Really? Last night it was raining, and I was afraid you'd get wet, so I went to the company to bring you an umbrella. The employees said you had left a long time ago. Julian paused. I just gently withdrew my hand, sat back on the sofa, and didn't look at his expression. Then he suddenly took a few quick steps, grabbed me, and hugged me tightly, his arms tightening and even his tone becoming cautious. I'm sorry, wife. Last night, the CEO of Qixing said there was a problem with the contract, so I had to socialize until very late, and I drank a lot of alcohol. After I was unconscious, I just found a hotel. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I was afraid you would worry, and you have a baby in your belly. The more he spoke, the quieter his voice became, and his face gradually showed grievance. As if he really was a good husband who was socializing outside for his wife and children, and was not understood. I struggled a few times but couldn't break free, so I had to say, the peach-scented perfume on you is suffocating me, Julian. I don't like peaches, you know that. After these words, Julian's body completely stiffened. Heartache was replaced by numbness. That's great, I can face him with a calm heart now. For the rest of the day, Julian stayed close to me at all times. He took another shower and changed his clothes, smiling as he said to me, there was a female assistant from Qixing last night. She must have accidentally brushed against me and that's how the scent got on me. There wasn't even a trace of panic about almost being caught cheating. I never knew his acting skills were so good. I smiled and nodded, brushing the matter off. Julian gave the family's nanny a holiday, saying he just wanted to spend a day with me today. He was so clingy that he didn't even let them cook and sent them all away. I looked at his busy back in the kitchen, and for a moment I felt like I was back when we had just gotten married. Back then, I had trouble sleeping, my spirits were low, and I was thin, so he would personally cook and feed me whenever he had time in between his busy schedule. If it wasn't for his phone ringing all the time. He frowned and hung up the last call. 2 of the chicken wings in the pot were burnt because he was distracted. My phone also rang a few times at the right time. There were several pictures and a file package. The pictures were taken in Julian's office. A girl was kneeling on the desk, her tight skirt pulled up high, and the man had only unzipped his zipper. 2 bodies were tightly joined together, the man's restraint and the girl's joy intertwined. I felt a little nauseous. I touched my chest and found that it felt like nothing was there. That's a good thing. Useless old woman, go die with your child. I can also have children for him. I just had a checkup. Do you think he'll still want you if he sees it? The text message came with an ultrasound. He's been tired of you for a long time. He told me that if it wasn't for you, he wouldn't have suffered so much. He's not divorcing you now just because of the child in your belly, because of responsibility. Let him go. I ignored her, but I understood. The person who deliberately used Julian's phone to lure me there last night was probably her too. The young girl's thoughts were obvious. It was a pity, She had been admitted to a prestigious school. Her future was obviously bright, but she had taken such a path. I saved those pictures and opened the file package sent by the foreign account. Inside was the girl's information. 20-year-old Maya had a youthful and beautiful appearance and a difficult life. A grandmother who favored boys over girls, a mother who died early, a vicious stepmother, and a fierce father. Julian had redeemed her. 2 years ago, when Julian's company was going public, there was a charity event. There was a problem with the relief supplies in the mountain area. Julian went to solve it himself and saved her, who had just finished the college entrance examination, and was about to be sold by her father to a widower in the village. Julian appeared in her life like a god descending from heaven. He brought her back to Beijing, pulled her out of the mire, and sponsored her to study. It was only natural that she fell in love with the god who saved her. She's very similar to you. The foreign account sent a message. I sneered, still in the mood to joke with her, and replied, "I'm not a mistress." She was probably speechless. After a long time, she replied again, "Does he have some kind of disease of helping the weak and rescuing prostitutes? Why does he always like to do the redemption thing?" Perhaps. The foreign account was still sending messages during dinner, but belatedly, her tone was full of resentment. "Do you want me to help you vent your anger? I just hacked into the scumbag's computer. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I can post it on that girl's campus network." Forget it. The focus is on the man who ate shit outside, not the shit itself, isn't it? What are you talking about? You seem so happy. Julian placed the dishes on the table. He knew I had a very special friend. They never showed their face and their whereabouts were erratic. I smiled, got up and walked to the table. Talking about a story of rescuing prostitutes. Julian pulled out the chair and carefully helped me sit down. What's so good about stories? My wife hasn't eaten my cooking in a long time. He kissed my forehead while I was sitting down. Remembering the photo Maya sent, I felt instantly nauseous, and my mood naturally worsened. I blurted out, "Real people and real events are naturally good to hear. A man met his beloved wife at a club, and a few years later he took away his mistress at that club. Do you think that man has some special fetish for rescuing prostitutes?" Julian's hand trembled, and the bowl he was adding soup for me tilted, and the soup in it spilled onto his hand. I coldly watched him rush to the kitchen to wash his hand, and a blister appeared on the back of his hand when he came out. I turned my phone upside down on the table and watched him stand there at a loss for a long time, then said, "Wife, did you hear some rumors?" I shook my head and smiled again. "Let's eat." The phone screen was paused on the sentence Maya sent me. "Guess, will he be able to spend your 3rd anniversary with you properly?" Julian ultimately couldn't be called out by Maya. When he made the excuse that he had company matters to deal with and went out, I raised my hand and brushed my hair. I was satisfied to see the panic in his eyes when he saw my empty finger. Maya provoked me. Even though I knew the problem was with Julian, I couldn't let her get her way, even if it disgusted her. It's just that although Julian stayed at home, I felt extremely disgusted. I secretly mocked myself for having to use tricks like in palace dramas to compete with other women for the man's favor in order to keep a husband who had changed his mind. That night he held me and talked a lot about the old days, about us. He held me very tightly even while sleeping. Until his mouth was dry, he tentatively whispered, "Clara, where's the ring I ground for you?" "Forgot, probably lost it somewhere," I replied. Silence lingered behind me for a long time before Julian's voice returned. "It's okay, if it's lost, it's lost. I'll make you another one." A chill suddenly ran down my neck. I looked down, the diamond wings on the necklace pendant shimmering. Julian turned me to face him, his eyes filled with affection. "Clara, happy 3rd anniversary. I got you the necklace you wanted." It was the angel wings that Maya had worn. I closed my eyes and hummed an acknowledgement, then turned over and faced the other way, pretending to be asleep. Perhaps the anniversary had been too eventful, because Julian didn't say anything else, but hugged me tightly from behind. Before I drifted off to sleep, I seemed to hear him say, "Good Clara, you must always stay with me, you can never leave me." But the forever he spoke of only lasted a few hours. I woke up when Julian got out of bed very quietly in the middle of the night. I closed my eyes and listened to him fumble around in the dark, get dressed, and then leave. Maya seemed to have been waiting for a long time downstairs at the villa, and threw herself into his arms when he appeared. I watched silently for a while, then tore the necklace off my neck and threw it into the trash can, and went to sleep in the guest room next door. Dirty, too dirty. So dirty that I couldn't pretend for even a moment after he left. I received a message from Julian the next day. He said he had to go on a business trip, his tone very cautious. "I'm sorry, honey, this business trip was a last-minute decision. It's an emergency. When I get back, I'll stay home with you and prepare for the baby. I won't go anywhere. I'll just stay by your side. Be a good girl and wait for me at home." "Okay, work is the most important thing. Don't worry about anything else. I'll have a big gift for you when you get back," I replied. Attached to the message was a photo of him holding Maya's hand as they boarded the plane. The man was tall and long-legged, the woman petite, like a loving and inseparable pair. I turned off the screen and took out all the photos we had taken together over the years and put them in the shredder. Then I had the people I had already contacted come and smash all the decorations in the rooms that could be called memories. The handmade ceramic cups we made together. The trophies we won together during school projects. The handmade rocking chair I had begged him to make for me, including the already decorated nursery. We actually could have checked if the baby was a boy or a girl, but Julian didn't want to. He said he wanted to wait 10 months to see for himself. So we decorated 2 nurseries. Pink was for a daughter, blue was for a son. But now, they were turning into ruins in front of me, along with all the anticipation for the baby. After telling the nanny that she didn't need to come to work for the next few days, I went out. On the way out, a message came from a foreign account. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "Yes. I'll be back to be with you." 5 short words, and the grievances of the past few days poured out like a flood, and tears instantly streamed down my face. Okay. Night fell, and Julian leaned against the window smoking. The nurse in the ward said, "Sir, no smoking is allowed in the ward." Julian responded, and used his finger to extinguish the cigarette. "How is it?" "There's no problem. You can have the surgery tomorrow. Just avoid intercourse during the postpartum period. Don't get exposed to the wind. You're young, so you'll recover quickly." After the nurse finished speaking, she left. Maya's eyes were red and her face pale as she called out to him, "Julian." She had forgotten how smug she had been when she showed Clara the pregnancy test. At this moment, she only wanted to ask if she could keep the baby. She wanted to say that she wasn't with him for the money, but she was interrupted before she could say it. "I'll give you a sum of money. This money is enough for you to live on for the rest of your life. Don't contact me again." Julian's expression was cold, no longer the gentle man he had been with her before. Seeing that she still wanted to pester him, Julian leaned over and pinched her face, so hard that 2 finger marks immediately appeared on her face. "I told you the rules from the beginning, Maya. Be obedient, and you can stay in Jing City. Otherwise..." He chuckled, the unspoken words self-evident. Maya shivered. She suddenly remembered Julian's ruthless methods. It was Julian's pampering during this time that had given her delusions. She had forgotten that she was just a pet he kept. And his true love was all for that woman named Clara. "Okay, you'll have the surgery here. We'll handle the follow-up." Julian stood up, preparing to leave. Maya was still in a daze. Suddenly, she remembered her provocation towards Clara. If Julian found out. She suddenly reached out and grabbed Julian's sleeve. "Julian, just for the last few days, can you stay with me? Can we see our child off together?" Maya looked up, her face covered with pitiful tears. She thought, at least she could stall him for a few days. After she had the abortion and her body was a little better, she would take the money and leave this place completely, so that no one could find her. And even if Julian found out that she had told Clara about their affair, and wanted to settle the score with her, he wouldn't be able to find her. Julian looked down at her. Maya from this angle looked most like Clara back then. 17-year-old Clara was already very beautiful. The kind of beauty that stunned you at first glance, but she was also fragile and sensitive. She was the kind of person who could easily make a man have evil intentions. So the young master, who had always had high standards, paid attention to someone for the first time. He actually knew about Clara's family situation on the first day he moved in. Their family was too famous in the building. Even the neighbor's pet dog would bark and walk around them when it saw them. No other reason. She had a violent and difficult stepfather who would beat her mother and her when he was drunk. Their house would be filled with the woman's tragic cries every few days. The police and the Women's Federation mediated a few times, but then stopped going. But even in that situation, Clara would quietly feed stray cats downstairs in the rundown community, and would also notice when he got into trouble outside and brought him medicine when he was injured. She was truly a kind-hearted and almost saintly girl. He had always been clear about his gratitude and resentment. He would make those who offended him wish they were dead, and he would not take other people's kindness for granted. So when their house was filled with the woman's screams again, he kicked open their door and rushed in. But the scene before him was even more shocking than the neighbors had described. He had never seen Clara's mother in all this time, but he finally saw her now. Her mother was emaciated and covered in injuries, but her striking beauty could not be hidden. Clara looked just like her. But now, she was lying on the ground with a bulging belly, enduring the man's slaps. Clara desperately hugged the man's leg, trying to pull him back, but was kicked over. The man also cursed filthily. "You married me and still want to run away and hook up with rich guys? Bitch, you dare to run? I'll kill you first, then kill your little slut daughter." Even though he had seen many ugly faces during this time, the young master had never been so angry. He almost roared as he rushed over and got into a fight with that man. In the end, the man broke 3 ribs and his leg bone was shattered by him. It was his father who paid to settle the matter. The man was afraid. For a long time afterwards, Clara and her mother had a better life, and her face clearly had more smiles. Looking at Clara's smile, Julian felt his heart flutter for the first time. Later, Clara's mother, who never went out, would support her belly and go out, and when she saw him and Clara together, she would warmly invite him home to eat together. Until one night, their house was filled with noise again, and he rushed out without even putting on his shoes. But this time the matter was even more complicated than last time. Crushed peaches were scattered on the ground, like Clara's hard-won happy summer. Clara's mother and stepfather were lying in a pool of blood not far away. Clara was trembling and sitting motionless in the corner, still holding a peach in her hand. She was like a dandelion in the wind, as if she could be blown away by the wind at any moment. It was the first time the unruly young master was afraid. He almost trembled as he went over and hugged Clara. He comforted her with a gentleness he had never had before, until she wailed. If he had initially noticed her because of her outstanding appearance, then later, he had truly fallen in love with this unfortunate girl. As for Maya, he first met Maya when she was only a teenager, and she was being dragged like an animal with ropes tied around her towards a crippled, lecherous middle-aged man. The girl's eyes were dim, her expression numb. Almost instantly he was reminded of Clara, shivering and leaning against the wall that night. They were both pure jasmine flowers blooming from the mud. In that moment, he felt a pang of pity, but it was only pity, because his heart belonged to Clara. Thinking of this, his gaze softened, and he said softly, "Okay." In the following days, Julian treated Maya as he had before. These were the last few days. He'd give this little girl who was infatuated with him a little bit of care, he thought. But somehow, the image of Clara kept popping into his head. Clara, crying in that dark, cramped room. Clara, deep in a whirlpool but still silently bandaging his wounds. Clara, afraid of men's touch because of her stepfather, yet still trembling obediently beneath him. He missed her, especially when he saw Maya being wheeled out of the operating room. That longing surged to its peak. Maya's face was pale, her whole body shrinking in the loose hospital gown, like a withered flower. Julian couldn't help but wonder, would Clara be in this much pain when she gave birth? He thought it didn't matter, he would stay by her side, hold her in his arms, and hire the best postpartum care team. He thought they would only have this one child, and he would never let Clara suffer like this again. But their chat history was still on the day he said he had to go on a business trip, and Clara told him that work was the most important thing. He really did have company matters to deal with these past few days, plus Maya's abortion. He was so busy and overwhelmed that he didn't have time to contact her. And she hadn't contacted him either. Julian suddenly realized that Clara's behavior on their 3rd anniversary had been too abnormal. It was as if she knew something. He felt a little panicked. He couldn't wait to send Clara a message. not even hearing Maya call him. It wasn't until the chat page displayed typing. And then after a long time a message saying, "I'm fine and the baby is fine too. Focus on your business trip," came through that his heart settled. He asked Maya, "What were you saying just now?" Maya sniffled aggrievedly, her eyes red, and pressed her face against Julian's palm. "Julian, it's just a few more days. Please spend some time with me, okay?" Julian didn't say anything, just put down his phone. On the day Maya was discharged from the hospital, Julian couldn't wait to have his assistant book a flight back to Kyoto. Before boarding, he called Clara. Clara's voice was still gentle, saying that she would pick him up at the airport. He happily curved his lips. "Honey, stay at home obediently and wait for me. You're 6 months pregnant, don't run around. I brought you a gift." Before hanging up, he had a sudden impulse and called out, "Clara." She said, On the other end, he said, "I love you." The past few years had been too difficult. He had left the Jiang family's support and suffered too much from starting a business and re-establishing himself in Kyoto. So many people called him stupid for throwing away the position of Jiang family heir for a woman. They compared him to that illegitimate son who had inherited the Jiang family. Who was he? He was once a favored son of heaven, the Jiang family's crown prince, the object of everyone's flattery. But his dignity and face were thrown on the ground for that illegitimate son to trample on. Those playboy sons of rich families whom he had once looked down on could easily plunge his slightly improved company into another downturn just to please that illegitimate son. Therefore he had irrationally resented Clara, even hated her. He hated that her appearance had made him lose his mind and abandon everything. As time passed, he had not said those 3 words with such passion and sincerity for a long time. Speaking them suddenly, his heart was racing like a young boy's, hoping for a response from the other end. However, time passed for a long time, long enough for his violently pounding heart to slow down gradually, and his upturned lips to droop. Only then did the other side respond with a The phone hung up. The fervor faded, and his smile was a little stiff. But it didn't matter. The only person he was sorry to was Maya. He could erase the traces when he got back this time, and nothing would happen. Clara wouldn't know anything. They would still be as loving as before, and soon they would welcome their baby. A harmonious picture flashed in his mind, and even his expression softened. After getting off the plane, it started to rain drizzlingly in Kyoto. The air seemed to be filled with ominous signs, as if something important was about to be drawn from his life. Julian braced himself, and kept stepping on the accelerator after getting into the car. Faster, faster. He would take Maya back to school, and then go home to find her. What was Clara doing now? Was she quietly reading a book on the sofa? Or was she pruning those few plants that she treasured on the balcony? Or even was she holding her belly and pacing back and forth at the door, just waiting? The accident came exceptionally fast. He instinctively moved to shield Maya. After all, she had just gotten rid of a child for him. If the impact was severe, her life might be in danger. Because of the rain and his unease, the car had a rear-end collision. His car's front end slammed hard into the back of the car in front. Julian knew it was his fault, but who was he? The Jiang family's crown prince had never admitted his mistakes since he was a child. After confirming that Maya was okay, he called his assistant and told him to pull some strings as he usually did. He'd give some color to this unlucky person who had brought him bad luck. After hanging up, Julian got out of the car with a cold face. Maya grabbed him nervously and followed him out. The rain was getting heavier, and Julian took off his jacket to put it over Maya's head, protecting her in his arms, and was about to go forward to see who was in the car in front. However, he hadn't walked 2 steps when he saw a scene that would be engraved in his soul for the rest of his life. The woman pushed open the car door and fell to the ground, her bulging pregnant belly trembling with pain from the injury on her forehead. Then she raised her head, her gaze towards him, and Maya was as calm as an ancient well, and the face he had missed for so long appeared before him. In that instant, all the blood in his body seemed to be drawn out. Fear made his lips twitch nervously, but he couldn't even make a sound. When I woke up in the hospital, the wound on my forehead had already been bandaged. Actually, my injury wasn't serious, but the scene looked a little scary. The nurse came in and gave me a few instructions, and was called back after she left. Julian was guarding outside the door. The man was asking about the situation in a low voice, but he didn't dare to come in and see for himself. I lowered my eyes and gently stroked my stomach, and called him, "Julian." The inquiring voice stopped abruptly, and after a long time, the door was pushed open. Julian's suit was wrinkled. It was still the jacket he used to shield Maya from the rain. He hadn't changed. He forced a gentle smile at me and said dryly, "Clara, don't misunderstand, I am her. Come and see our child." I gently interrupted the excuse he was about to make. The weather was already clearing up, and I looked up at him in the sunlight and smiled. Julian's expression instantly changed from panic to soft, and he looked at me in a daze as he walked over. I looked at him carefully, and then finally, guilt appeared on his face. It was the guilt of cheating on his pregnant wife. I found it funny, and I actually laughed. Julian came back to his senses, trembling as he reached out to touch my stomach, and when he spoke again, his voice was almost choked with sobs. "I'm sorry. Clara, you scared me to death yesterday. Didn't I tell you to wait for me at home? I didn't." He couldn't continue, and finally put his head on my stomach. "What would I do if something happened to you?" The atmosphere in the ward gradually became warm, and we just stood there, so quiet that we could hear the dripping of water in the bathroom. I stroked Julian's hair, like soothing a manic dog. In the past, Julian had a bad temper and always caused trouble, and I would always stroke his back, his hair, like this. Unfortunately, I had seen him bury his head in another woman's chest. A disloyal dog is disgusting and clingy. It was as if my hands that had touched him now were filthy. So I pushed him away unexpectedly. Smiling at his bewildered gaze, I said word by word, "Julian, say goodbye to the baby one last time. Tell it not to be reborn as the offspring of a scumbag like you in its next life." Julian went mad. He was held down on the ground by the brawny men I hired, his clothes disheveled, desperately roaring. Several times he almost broke free and rushed towards me. Thankfully, I had prepared in advance, having the men I'd paid to wait outside restrain him when the labor pains began. The look in his eyes changed from shock to pain as he watched me, finally settling on despair. Clara, you're kidding, right? I was wrong, I was really wrong. Maya and I were only together for these few months. I never loved her. I love you. I only love you. I'm begging you, this is our child. Clara, we are the closest people in this world, this is our child. You can't do this." Julian's eyes were bloodshot, his emotions collapsing more and more, until he let out a non-human roar. "That's right, I ultimately chose to induce labor and get rid of this child. And it was done in front of Julian." I clearly felt the baby's strong movements in my abdomen as the medication took effect. It began its final struggle. My stomach was cramping, my heart was spasming. Almost trembling, I crawled out of bed and took unsteady steps towards him. Peace shattered, I grabbed his collar. "No, I can't, Julian, because a scumbag like you and your father don't deserve to have descendants." "Clara." Julian was held down, kneeling before me, roaring in pain. In the 7 years I'd known him, the 3 years we'd been married, he had never lost his temper with me. Now his eyes were about to burst, the deeply hidden hatred finally surfacing on the surface. Knowing he hated me was one thing, but seeing it was another. In that moment, I felt torn and absurd. "That's your child too. I made a mistake, but what did it do wrong? To be stripped of the chance to even be born into this world. How can you be so cruel? Have you forgotten your mother? Your mother protected you even as she died. And now you are a mother, Clara." He was babbling incoherently, trying to attack me with my deepest pain. But I didn't care because I knew, if my mother could see this scene, she would be happy for me, grateful that I hadn't followed her old path. Even as she was dying, she was telling me to run. Now I had finally completely escaped that shadow. So I smiled mockingly, stretching my lips. I looked at him with derision. "You have no right to judge me. All of this is your fault, not mine. See, you're just like your father now, just like a beast who cheats on his wife while she's pregnant. So the genes of evil people are inherited after all, and you don't deserve to have descendants anymore. And I'm not your mother who died in sorrow because her husband cheated." At this moment, my understanding of him became the sharpest knife piercing him. The room was filled only with his frantic, heavy breathing and bloodshot eyes. I was in so much pain that the veins on my forehead were bulging, but I remained calm and composed. The nurse, who came in to check on me, was afraid something would happen to me, so she hurried over to support me. Did I win? No, I didn't. In this game, we were all losers. Julian was being held down firmly, kneeling on the ground. I turned my head and stopped looking at him. He should be kneeling to see the baby off. My stomach was hurting more and more, my entire lower body feeling as if it was being torn apart. Induced labor meant giving birth to the already stillborn child. The nurse supported me as I walked back and forth in the bathroom, patting my back and teaching me how to adjust my breathing. Julian knelt at the door of the bathroom, his eyeballs bulging, staring intently at my belly, tears uncontrollably streaming down his face. So he did care about this child so much. My stomach felt like countless dull knives were churning inside, the pain causing every inch of my body to be soaked with sweat. But looking at Julian like this, I suddenly felt a bizarre sense of pleasure. My scalp was tingling. Midway through, the doctor came in to check on the situation and gave me a painkiller. My mouth was bleeding from being bitten in pain, but I still said word by word. Julian, when you cheated on me, did you think about me being pregnant? Did you think about this child? Remember, it was because you cheated that this child was killed while it could breathe. Fresh blood snaked down my legs, forming a pool on the floor. Finally, with a soft thud, the child was expelled into the prepared medical basin. Julian's gaze followed the child intently, his eyes shifting from despair to numbness, his throat emitting a non-human hoarse sound. Finally, I slowly bent down, picked up the child, which already had limbs, from the basin and put it into Julian's arms. Julian, look at it. Look at this child who lost its life because of your mistake, lest you forget what it looks like in your dreams in the future. Julian ran. He fled in panic, even falling as he went out the door, crawling out of the ward. Watching his back, I tilted my head and took a deep breath. I knew I had a serious mental illness and had been actively seeking treatment. But later, when I had a child, strangely, this little thing that took root in my belly seemed to have a special magic. It slowly healed my psychological trauma, allowing me to gradually go a long time without getting sick again. Naturally, I didn't need to take medicine, and I didn't need to see a psychiatrist anymore. A week ago, I stepped into the mental health clinic again, not to see a doctor, but to tell the doctor about my dark month. Finally, I asked, "Doctor, what do you think I should do to make him regret it?" My psychiatrist didn't answer me, and I didn't wait for his answer. As Julian said, he was the person who knew me best in the world, and I was the same. After so much psychotherapy, I had naturally slowly learned how to attack a person's weakest points in the opposite direction. I thought Julian would never have children again in his life. This was a brutal psychological castration. It was also the great gift I said I was going to give him. I stayed in the hospital for a week. During that time, Maya called me once. The her on the other end of the phone was no longer as smug as when she had provoked me before, hysterically questioning me. "What the hell did you do? Why has Julian been running a high fever since he came back and can't keep anything down? Clara, you vicious woman. You should go to the 18th level of hell." And I only smiled and asked her one sentence. "I heard Julian forced you to abort your child?" Then she hung up the phone. On the 8th day in the hospital, an uninvited guest came to my ward. The woman was dressed in black. After entering the ward and making eye contact with me, she took off her mask and the hood of her windbreaker. Looking at her face, which was almost transparently white due to years of being away from the sun, I choked and then burst into tears. That afternoon, I checked out of the hospital. On the way to the airport, Julian called me, but I didn't answer. He didn't call again after the first time. While waiting for my flight, Zara put on her hat and mask again, and typed on the computer for a while, then raised her eyebrows with a smile. Done. I sat aside, staring blankly, and didn't ask her what was done. Zara was my friend who had never shown her face. Her situation was similar to mine, the only difference being that she was autonomously averse to light and crowds, while I was afraid of crowds. She used to be a hacker and was arrested for provoking and hacking into the system of a long-established family business abroad. Later, she was fished out by that family and made a network security engineer. So her done wouldn't be anything good. The divorce agreement has already been sent. Soon you'll be able to come and live with me abroad. She ruffled my hair, and I turned to look at her. It wouldn't be that easy. Julian was persistent and vindictive. This time, he was caught off guard, and he didn't have time to react. But he always repaid his grudges, and whether it was love or hate, he would never let go easily. So before coming to the airport, I went to see someone first. Now in charge of the Jiang family is Julian's illegitimate younger brother. I understand Julian. He has immense pride. Even though he has now made a name for himself, this heir recognized by his father is someone he will resent for life. He won't willingly be trampled by this person. That would be worse than death for him. In the early stages of his business, Julian loved me very much and gave me 20% of the shares. Now I've sold those shares to his illegitimate younger brother. These two have been at each other's throats for years, wanting to crush each other. The illegitimate son probably won't miss this opportunity. Only if they fight each other can I buy myself some time to recover and get the money I need to live abroad. I took a long time to recover after going abroad. The 6-month induced abortion caused a lot of damage to my body. During that time, I finally understood what Zara meant by, "It's done." She had hacked into Julian's computer and sent compressed files of Julian and Maya's explicit photos and videos to all of Julian's business partners and company employees on a timed schedule. She also privately sent the provocative messages Maya sent me to Julian. Julian's company was already in turmoil because of the shares I sold to the illegitimate son. This information made Julian's current situation even worse. Even in this state, he didn't give up on contacting me. No matter how strictly Zara guarded, a few messages occasionally appeared on my phone. "Clara, where are you? I won't get a divorce. I was wrong. Can't we go back to how we were before? Clara, I love you very much. I won't let go. I'll find you. Clara, I know where you are. When I've dealt with things here, I'll come and take you home. Clara, I know about the things Maya did. I've already sent her away. No one will stand between us." In the picture, Maya was bound with her hands and her face was covered with tears. I had seen some of the people standing next to her in the information Zara sent me. Maya's grandmother, father and stepmother, and the widower who almost became her husband a few years ago. My hands trembled as I finished reading the messages. Zara snatched the phone from my hand and used a towel to wipe the sweat from my forehead. Ever since the induced abortion, I've been breaking out in cold sweats, feeling cold all over. At this moment, even my heart began to feel cold. She helped me up. "I made soup. Come on, let's eat." I nodded weakly. She sneered. "Looks like it's not chaotic enough. You still have the energy to flirt." As she spoke, she went back to her room, took out her computer, and sat down at the dining table. "You eat first. I'll add some fuel to the fire." Before she could move, I pressed her hand and shook my head. "Don't. He's already at his wit's end. That illegitimate son won't give him a chance to turn things around." It wasn't worth her taking another risk. Soon things took another turn. Maya escaped and declared online that she had been deceived and manipulated, and had no idea that Julian was married. At the same time, Julian released the chat logs that Zara had sent him, exposing Maya's lies. The two of them began to fight like dogs. Those who betray will eventually be betrayed. After I recovered a bit, I asked Zara to help me plan a route to go out and travel. I'd lived for over 20 years, and I'd never gone out to travel alone like this before. In the future, I would always be alone. Knowing my thoughts, Zara planned a route that was very extensive. So extensive that it spanned the world. So extensive that Zara reminded me that Julian was chasing after me. But because of my itinerary, he never managed to meet me. During this time, because of Julian's distraction, his company was completely swallowed up by the illegitimate son. Zara sent me a picture of him passed out drunk in the street. Disheveled, decadent. That was enough. The day I returned to Jing City, it was snowing. The moment I got off the plane, a cold wind rushed towards me, and for a moment, I felt like I was in another world. I left with pain and wounds all over my body. In just a few months, I was stepping back here, and I had become like a different person. No longer sensitive, shrinking, or pushing people away out of fear. The next time I saw Julian was when I asked him out to discuss the divorce. He had lost a lot of weight, and his hair wasn't as meticulously styled as before. From the moment he saw me, his eyes were fixed on me. We had experienced too much in the past few months, and we were both very calm. The scene at the hospital felt like something from a past life. After sitting down, I pushed the revised divorce agreement over to him. My share of the company had already been converted into money. Julian's company was gone, so there was no need to argue about property division. This time I only wanted a divorce. Julian didn't look at the agreement. Instead, his eyes red with pain. He grabbed his hair and said in a trembling voice, "I just made a mistake that all men make. How did we end up like this? I slept with someone else." As soon as I finished speaking, Julian stopped abruptly, like a broken toy. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. His eyes were filled with despair. His red eyes filled with tears, and then they fell onto the table one by one. He rarely cried. The only 2 times I had seen it were at the hospital last time and today. Last time, it was an unconscious flood of tears caused by shock and trauma. This time, he was crying and wiping his eyes at the same time. He covered his chest with his hand for a while before staggering up to grab my hand. "It doesn't matter, it's okay, Clara. It's okay. Can we make up? Can we not get a divorce? I'll change. There will be no one else in the future. I'll get back on my feet soon and give you a good life." I just dodged his hand and bluntly shattered his illusions. "It won't happen, Julian. You won't have a chance to get back on your feet, because your spirit has already been broken. And we won't get back together, not since the moment you cheated." Julian slumped back down. Of course, I didn't just sleep with someone else randomly. But I knew that his pride had been broken down to the point where he could no longer stubbornly get something by any means necessary as he had done in the past. Making him suffer was what I was best at now. Sure enough, he couldn't be as arrogant as before, insisting on getting something by any means necessary. He just kept emphasizing how good he had been to me in the past, emphasizing that he had only made one mistake. "Do you know, Julian, it's not just men who are attracted to the novelty outside. Women are too. Do you think I don't hate the same dishes all the time? Do I not hate a living room with unchanging decorations? It's just that I have more morals than you. When I get tired of cooking, I add some spice. I randomly rearrange the decorations. I never thought about moving into someone else's house. What about you? Was it really because Maya resembled me back then?" Julian finally signed the divorce agreement. Before leaving, I said one last sentence. "Oh right, Julian. You once told your cronies that I was 6 months pregnant. My belly was already so big, so what could I do even if I found out you were cheating? Do you know what I would do now?" After saying that, I strode out of the store. I didn't look at Julian's expression again. I also didn't tell him that the timid and dull Clara, in reality, was the most stubborn and vindictive, just like him. That night, amidst the peaches all over the floor, my stepfather hit my mother. My mother actually couldn't have seriously injured him. It was me in my panic that pushed him, making his head hit the corner of the table. Unfortunately, he died, and my mother still couldn't be saved. And the root cause of that night when that man attacked my mother was that when my mother invited Julian to our house for dinner that night, the arrogant teenager verbally threatened that beast. I knew Julian wanted to protect us, but it just so happened that the beast was drunk. That beast was already disgruntled by Julian's suppression, and after being threatened that night after drinking, he was extremely violent. Afterwards, I had also tried to hate Julian. But I knew his starting point was good, and he did help us. He had waited through those dark days with me. But anyone could bring up my unfortunate family, except for him. He couldn't joke about it. Because I had trusted him, loved him. Ultimately, he had also contributed to my misfortune. So when he turned my pain into amusement and told Maya and those young masters, our mutual destruction was inevitable. Julian actually couldn't remember what the days were like immediately after the divorce. He was drunk and muddled every day. He only remembered that one day when he was drunk, he rushed out of the bar and almost bumped into someone. But before he could get close, he was thrown away by the person's bodyguards. Probably another rich second generation from the upper class. He scoffed mockingly. Back when he was the heir of the Jiang family, he also had this kind of entourage when he went out. Even bigger. If someone had almost bumped into him like that, whether he was drunk or sober, he would have been beaten up. So he also lay on the ground, waiting for someone to come and beat him up. During that time, he even picked up the bottle and took another big gulp. However, he waited for a long time, and he didn't feel any pain on his body. He pinched his brow, and just as he was about to say, "Are you going to fucking hit me or not? If you're not going to hit me, I'm leaving," the person who was surrounded and revered in the middle walked over and stood in front of him. The man was very young, with an outline that looked very similar to his own. He recognized the other person almost instantly. At that moment, he couldn't describe the taste, discomfort, humiliation. No, to be more precise, at that instant he felt like he'd rather die. He clenched the beer bottle so hard his hand was shaking. The illegitimate son only glanced down at him, said, "Just SOSO," and left with a large group of people. The bar manager was waiting at the entrance not far away, wearing a fawning smile. Julian took another sip of wine, chewing over the words, "Just SOSO" in his mouth. Yes, in the eyes of that illegitimate son, he was indeed nothing now. He was bright and dazzling, surrounded by people, while he was like a pile of mud. Just thinking like this, his eyes began to heat up again. He took out his phone and subconsciously dialed that number he knew by heart. He felt like she should be with him, just like she used to be. It was answered quickly, but it was a man's voice. For a moment, Julian felt like he had no heartbeat. Clara had another man beside her. Did that mean that soon, she would also start a new relationship? The other end said hello several times, and probably hung up when there was no response. But he no longer had the courage to call back. Clara was right, his spirit had dissipated back in the hospital that day. He couldn't go back. He could never go back. Neither to the status he once had, nor to the person he loved with his life. He threw away the beer bottle, slowly got up, and stumbled towards the shadows not far away.